So I read another comment. I should probably just stop reading comments because all they do is piss me off. Fuck. Give them books and you give them books, and Derek, all they'll ever do is tear the fucking pages. They'll piss on it, they'll wipe their ass with it, but the last thing they'll ever fucking do is read it. A gentleman made a comment about, oh, this sovereign jargon bullshit, blah, 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 and you're not helping people remove child support and be free. Listen. The reason they're subject to child support is because they didn't do a special motherfucking appearance, okay? They didn't start the court case out right to have proper fucking standing. You gotta have fucking standing. And how do you get standing? By asserting your fucking rights and moving the jurisdiction of the court from the Article 1, Section 8 fucking venue that you're in and collapsing it. Fucking proving that they don't have any authority or jurisdiction and you have no obligation to abide by their edicts. All right? That's how you do that shit. First, you file a special appearance, then you can do a demur, if you will, and then you can go on even further. If you want to go even further than that, you can do a writ of mandamus, a writ of quo warranto, if needed. You could assert yourself in the aspect of production of documentation and discovery and force them to prove the contract that you entered into, okay? There's a number of ways that you can get rid of child support. All right. First, you have to identify where child support comes from. All right. If you understand that it's lodged under the executive branch through the Social Security Administration Act and yada, 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 all through Congress and the legislative branch, which applies to civil statutory law, which only applies to Title 28, 3002, 15A, officers or people who fill office, then you can shut that shit down. So this whole argument that, this is all sovereign jargon, where the fuck do you think they even assumed the fact that they had sovereignty in the first place? Okay? They got it from us. So stop jerking yourself around pretending that sovereignty doesn't exist, because I'll tell you right now, if it didn't fucking exist, then they wouldn't be running around calling themselves sovereign. And when I say they, I'm talking about the federal government, the state government, so on and so forth. Remember, we exhibit sovereignty because we came from the true sovereign, right? So they are in turn just exhibiting the sovereignty that we exhibit from our masterful creator. Just the same. So it's funny how many of these people out here are so hell-bent on destroying the very principles and foundations for which this was all created, which all boils down to sovereignty. His next comment was about, there are rules and everywhere you go, so if you don't like it here, just move. Okay, well, we'll see how you feel when UN troops are on your soil bossing you around. They'll probably say the same fucking thing to you. If you don't like it, move. Well, that presupposes that the created is more powerful than its creator. And that means that everything created now supersedes anything that has ever been done in the past, which is complete horseshit rhetoric. I'm going to be real honest with you. Just cut and fucking dry. The Republic is still there. The organic constitution is still there. And what makes the difference of whether or not you enjoy being here is your ability to learn and overcome adversity through a systematic structure that has been designed to take you away from your rights and give you fucking privileges. And it's the people who run around and placate to other people that if you don't like it, you should just move. That's such nonsensical rhetoric, horseshit. First of all, let me tell you something. This great nation, this great land, I'm going to tell you right now, there is no other like it in the fucking world. I'm talking about as far as farm production, the way that it was framed. It's the largest experiment the world has ever seen. Remember, prior to this, everything was run by oligarchies, monarchies, and dictators. Fucking period. All right? This is the one free nation, the one free land the greatest experiment the world has ever seen, and we're losing it because people have this preconceived notion that somehow sovereignty is a bad thing, or sovereignty doesn't exist. I'm telling you right now, it does. I wouldn't pour my heart and soul into this shit if it wasn't relevant. The biggest complaint most people have about the government is that it imposes mandatory obligations that appear to institute involuntary servitude. How do they do it without violating the 13th Amendment prohibiting on involuntary servitude, or the 5th Amendment prohibiting on the taking of private property without compensation? This section will attempt to answer the question. Now pay fucking attention, because I'm going to try to help you out a little bit. The obligation owed to the state by statutory citizens, Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1401, are spoken of in Baker versus Keck, K-E-C-K, 13F period, Superior Court, 486. This case was had and resolved in 1936. Now pay attention, because we're talking about the statutory citizen, not the union state national, okay? Citizenship and domicile are subsequently synonymous. Residency and inhabitants are too often confused with the terms and have not the same significance. Citizenship implies more than residence, domicile. It carries with it the idea of identification with the state and a participation in its function. As a citizen, one sustains social, political, and moral obligations to the state and possesses social and political rights under the Constitution and laws thereof. Harding versus Standard Oil Co. et al. CC 182 F period 421. Baldwin versus Franks 120 U.S. 678 7 S period CT period 763 excuse me. 32 L period ED period 766, and Scott versus Sanford 19 Howe 393 476 15 L period ED period 691. Baker versus Keck, K-E-C-H 13 F period Superior Court 486. Again, it was established in 1963. The above obligations are civil statutory obligations. Civil statutory obligations. Are you a United States citizen? Well, then I've got news for you, fucking Skippy. You are subject to civil statutory fucking obligations, all right? You don't want to be subject to that shit anymore? You don't want to be subject to the edicts of Congress and the legislature creating shit that applies to office holders and officers? Okay, well then you might want to do a special appearance stating who the fuck you are, all right? Giving yourself standing and challenging the jurisdiction. Yet the 13th Amendment forbids involuntary servitude. The following series of facts, not bullshit, not rhetoric, not hearsay, not I think so, not I believe so, not I suspect, the following fucking facts is the only thing that explains how these statutes can impose duties or obligations against those who are statutory citizens without violating the 13th fucking Amendment. Did you pay attention to that? I mean, just the asinine horseshit I see people spew out their fucking mouth, not comprehending a fucking thing, and wanna slander and trash sovereignty. And you wonder why you're a fucking subject slave. There are, in fact, two capacities in which every man can act. Public and fucking private. It don't get any better than this. All right? It's real simple. Here is a maximum of law on the subject, and I love this maximum. When two rights, the public right and the private right, concur in one person, it is the same as if they were two separate persons. Okay? Beauvair's maximum of law, 1856. Consent of the private man is required to fill said public office. Okay, you had to consent in one way or another. And when you went to that court hearing for fucking an administrative process on child support, guess what you did? The presence of the body waives the error in the motherfucking name. And because you didn't appear on paper by special appearance stating who the fuck you are and what standing you have, guess what? You just assumed the role of filling a fucking office, and now you're subject to the legislative edicts of Congress and the fucking legislator because you are presumed and assumed in their Article 1, Section 8 courts as being an officer of the United States or a volunteer subject serf slave of Title 28, 3002, 15A, a federal fucking territory. All right? The only way anything public can attach to otherwise private property is with the express consent. Express consent can be written, it can be oral, of the owner of that property. Otherwise, there has been an unconstitutional Fifth Amendment taking. But there's no Fifth Amendment taking when you slumbered upon your rights, laches occurred, and you are presumed and assumed to be a U.S. citizen. Okay, because what did the prosecutor do when they summoned you to court about child support? They said that you were a fucking resident and you didn't rebut and rebuke. You didn't do a special appearance rebutting and rebuking the fact that you're a fucking resident. A resident is a very bad word, okay, especially in that venue. When we refer to the method of connecting man to government, public office, we simply say that the public office and a private man cannot be connected together and thereby become an object of legislation without the consent of the man that is being connected. That connection, in fact, is called the res. All right, this is going to bust us off into trust law, and I fucking love trust law, okay? Or thing that is the only thing Congress can legislate against. Res, Latin, the subject matter of a trust or a will. What are they doing in these courts? Ladies and gentlemen, they are creating constructive motherfucking trusts. Want proof of it? They're not using your real fucking legal name. They're using pseudo names. They're using things like Derek S. Gonzalez. Okay, now, first of all, let's just rewind a second. Can you even be a fucking name? No, you can't, all right? You're a living, sentient being with a heart, a pulse, a soul. You have the ability to act. You have the ability to do a lot of things. But the one thing that you absolutely can't fucking be is a fucking name, all right? Boy, his comment pissed me off. I don't, sometimes I wonder why the fuck I'm even doing this anymore. All right. Res, it's Latin, the subject matter of a trust or a will. Okay. In civil law, a thing, an object, as a term of the law, this word has a very wide and extensive significance, including not only things which are objects of property. Remember how I told you if you want to change the jurisdiction and you want to go into the exclusive jurisdiction of equity in camera, in chambers, you make the issue about the conflict of variance between the rules of equity and the rules of law pertaining to property. What is property? Your motherfucking rights are property. Whether tangible or intangible, they're your fucking property. Make the issue about property. Change the fucking venue in the jurisdiction. There you will find your remedy in the exclusive jurisdiction of equity. Very simple. Very simple shit. But also, such as are not capable of individual ownership. And in Old English, the law, it is said to have a general import comprehending both corporeal and incorporeal things of whatever kind, nature, or species. By res, according to the modern civilians, is meant everything that may form an object of rights in opposition to persona, which is regarded as a subject of rights. Res, therefore, in its general meaning, comprising actions of all kinds, while in its restricted sense it comprehends every object of right. except actions, this has reference to the fundamental division of the institutes that all law relate either to persons, to things, or to actions. Res is everything that may form an object of right and includes an object, subject matter, or status. Oh shit. Status? What have I been talking about for the last few days? Status, standing, status, standing. And here we are talking about the res. And what does it pertain to? It includes an object, a subject matter, or a fucking status. Are you a sovereign? I don't know about you, but I don't try and lord over other men because I'm of the mindset that everybody is sovereign. All men are created equal, which means I don't have the ability to lord over anybody. Furthermore, I don't want to lord over anybody. You have people going, oh, you should run for public office. Why? I have no desire to lord over other fucking people. I have no desire to unjustly enrich myself by lording over other fucking people, which is exactly the form of government we have today. Nobody's serving anybody. They're lording over you. Period. And I have no desire to fulfill that office. Not my fucking problem. Not my can of beans. In regard, Wriggle's Will, 11 AD 2D, 51205, NYS 2D, New York State, 1921-22, the term is particularly applied to an object, subject matter, or status, considered as the defendant in an action, or as an object against which directly proceedings are taken. Now, let's talk about the word defendant. If you go to Federal Rules Civil Procedure 17B, but furthermore, just go to Federal Rules Civil Procedure 17. It tells you right there that a defendant and a plaintiff are in the capacity of an office. Period. It tells you exactly what it fucking pertains to. And if you don't fill an office, if you're not, have not taken an oath, if you are not part of that foreign jurisdiction or corporation, then you're not a defendant and you're not a plaintiff. All right? Just that fucking simple. In an action or as an object against which directly proceedings are taken. Thus, in a prize case, the captured vessel is the res. Now, everybody was telling me that earlier a vessel is a boat. No, it's not. It's not a boat. It's not just particularly a boat. All right? There's a lot of things that are titled a vessel. A birth certificate is a fucking vessel. It's also a bill of lading. Is the res. And proceeding of this character are said to be in rem. What is in rem? In rem deals with fucking things, people. All right? You as a natural living man are not a fucking thing. You're a living, sentient soul and being. Mind, body, spirit, and soul, right? Okay? See in personam in rem. Res may also denote the action or proceeding as when a cause which is not between adversary parties, it entitled in regards. Black Laws Dictionary, 6th edition, page 1304 through 1306. If the public and private never get connected, the public office is civilly dead. What do they call that? Civil mortuitis or something like that? And constitutes an abandoned estate. Holy fucking sheep shit. Are they talking about a trust? Yes, they are. How do we know that? Because when they can't make the fucking connection, when they can't get you to join their public side and you stay on the private, now we have abandoned trust res. We have abandoned estate. We have abandoned property. Okay? Remember, all just powers of the government derive from consent. The implication is that anything not traceable back to the consent is inherently 1, unjust, 2, unconstitutional, and 3, fucking illegal. We could add 4, unlawful. All right? Which constitutes a trespass. But you got to be able to identify that trespass in order to nail their nuts to the wall. Okay? How did they cause you harm? Did you give them a notice and opportunity to cease and desist? That you're not an officer, you don't hold public office, nor have you ever taken an allegiance or oath to Washington, D.C. or its subsidiary corporations? No, you did not. Did you do a demur in your case? Did you file a special appearance when you showed up to challenge the jurisdiction, declaring who you are and what standing you have? No, you did not. All right? all the powers of the government, including its authority to enact civil laws imposing an obligation upon you, depend either on a public office or a contract made with otherwise private fucking people. Where's the contract? And if there's not a contract, please show me where you have evidence that I am an office holder or fill some office on behalf of the public that ties me to your statutory fucking bullshit edicts. Produce it or shut the fuck up. This case is dismissed for lack of jurisdiction, lack of subject matter jurisdiction, want the fucking prosecution, fraud upon the court, falsifying fucking records, false and misleading statements, right? Since the average American has no contracts with the national government, then the only way for the obligation of being a statutory citizen can attach is through a public office called U.S. citizen. Did you declare that you're a state national with an allegiance to the state? Did you declare that you're a member of the Union States, not within a federal territory? Did you notify these people through way of special appearance? Okay, then. I'm identifying what the problem is on your end. Whether or not you want to believe it is up to you. Go read a book. Or citizens of the United States. Okay? Which is defined statutorily under Title 28, 3002, 15A. A private person cannot make constitutions or laws, nor can he, with authority, construe them, nor can he administer or execute them. United States versus Harris, 106 U.S. 629 1 S period CT period 601 27 L period ED period 290 1883. All right. All the powers of the government, including all of its civil enforcement powers against the public, must be carried into operation by individual agencies either through the medium of public officer or contracts made with private individual. Osborne versus Bank of U.S., 22 U.S. 738, 1824. Those who disagree with the assertion in this step are asked simply to prove how a person can obey or be the subject of a specific statute without executing it as indicated above. The answer is that it is impossible. The statutory obligation must attach to a public office, period, and privilege called statutory U.S. citizen and not the private man filling said office. Finally, this court is mindful of the years of past practice in which territorial citizenship has been treated as a statutory privilege and not a constitutional right. In the unincorporated territories of Puerto Rico, Guam, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the Northern Mariana Islands, birthright citizenship was conferred upon their inhabitants by various statutes many years after the United States acquired them. See amicus brief at 1011. If the citizenship clause guaranteed birthright citizenship is in unincorporated territories, these statutes would have been unnecessary. While long-standing practice is not sufficient to demonstrate constitutionality, such a practice requires special scrutiny before being set aside. If a thing has been practiced for 200 years by common consent, it will need a strong case for the 14th Amendment to effect. It is obviously correct that no one acquires a vested or protected right in violation of the Constitution by long use. Yet an unbroken practice is not something to be lightly cast aside. And while Congress cannot take away the citizenship of individuals covered by the Citizenship Clause, it can bestow citizenship upon those not within the Constitution's breadth. See U.S. Constitution, Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2. Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territories belonging to the United States, Title 28, 3002, 15A, a federal criminal organization. ID at Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4. Congress may establish a uniform rule of naturalization. To date, Congress has not seen fit to bestow birthright citizenship upon American Samoa, and in accordance with the law, this court must and will respect that choice. 16 Tuma versus United States of America, 951 F period, Superior period 2D 888, 2013. Citizenship must be voluntary, because the 13th Amendment outlaws involuntary servitude everywhere, including federal territory. Certainly being compelled to occupy a public office in the government would qualify as unconstitutional involuntary servitude. When a public office is associated with a specific person, it is called citizenship by the courts. Those who refuse the public office, called statutory U.S. citizen, are called non-residents and are not protected by the civil statute law. Have you declared the fact in your special appearance that you are a non-resident? Lack statutory diversity of citizenship no matter where they are domiciled under Title 28 U.S.C. subsection 1332. Can only invoke constitutional diversity of citizenship under Article 3 subsection 2. And if you want to get even further into the nitty-gritty, it's Article 3 subsection 2 subpart 1 would be the venue you would be looking for, or a qualified chancellor in Article 3 subsection 2 subpart 1. The exclusive jurisdiction of equity, have a civil domicile on geographic territory, and are not subject to civil statutory law, cannot lawfully have the choice of law switched to federal territory because they are not within the statutory geographical United States under Title 26 U.S.C. subsection 7701 A9 and A10. You must declare yourself to be a statutory citizen, a citizen of the United States under Title 8 U.S.C. subsection 1401, born on federal territory or the federal enclaves, Washington, D.C., District of Criminals, in order to invoke the privileges of the public office. Federal territory is not protected by the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. Indeed, the practical interpretation put by the Congress upon the Constitution has been long continued and uniform to the effect that the Constitution is applicable to territories acquired by the purchase or conquest only when and so far as Congress shall so direct, notwithstanding its duties to guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government. Article 4, Section 4, by which we understand, according to the definition of Webster's, a government in which the supreme power resides in the whole body of the people and is exercised by respective representatives elected by them. Congress did not hesitate in the original organization of the territories of Louisiana, Florida, Northwest Territory, and its subdivision of Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, and Wisconsin, and still more recently, in the case of Alaska, to establish a form of government bearing a much greater analogy to the British Crown colony than a republican state of America, and to vest the legislative power either in a governor and council or a governor and judges to be appointed by the president. It was not until they had attained a certain population that power was given them to organize a legislature by vote of the people. In all these cases, as well as the territory subsequently organized west of the Mississippi, Congress thought it necessary either to extend to the Constitution and laws of the United States over them, or to declare that the inhabitants should be entitled to enjoy the right of trial by jury, of bail, and of the privileges of the writ of habeas corpus, as well as other privileges of the Bill of Rights. Downs versus Bidwell, 182 U.S. 244, 1901. Statutory citizen, Title 8, U.S.C. subsection 1401, born on federal territory by definition, are both domiciled on federal territory and present there, and have no constitutional fucking rights. They have no constitutional fucking rights. Why would you proclaim to be a U.S. citizen, a statutory citizen, if only out of fucking ignorance, okay? And waive all your unalienable rights. Statutory citizen under Title 8, U.S.C. subsection 1401, born on federal territory by definition, are both domiciled on federal territory and present there, and have no constitutional rights. Otherwise, they wouldn't be statutory citizens, but rather stateless persons and non-residents. You can't have a civil status in a place unless you are domiciled there. Those who invoke the congressionally granted statutory privileges of public office, meaning those who are statutory citizens, United States citizens under Title 8, USC, subsection 1401, born on federal territory, are not covered by the 13th Amendment, or the legal obligations imposed upon them would be unfucking constitutional. Is that answering how you fucking beat the shit out of child support all fucking day long? Change your status. Assert yourself. All right? Claim your fucking status. Men make claims. Corporations file complaints. If these statutory U.S. citizens aren't protected by the 13th Amendment, then they must not be protected by any part of the rest of the Bill of Rights either. The question then becomes, why would anyone want to be a statutory citizen if they are not protected by the Constitution and have no constitutional rights? The answer is that they are fucking idiots, incapable of reading, don't want to apply themselves, and want to bitch, whine, and cry about the way they're being treated, and yet seemingly do nothing about it. Do you really have to give up all your constitutional rights to become a statutory United States citizen? Yes, you fucking do. The answer is yes. Here is what one court said on the subject. When one becomes a member of a society, he necessarily parts with some rights or privileges which, as an individual not affected by his relation to others, he might retain. A body politic, as aptly defined in the preamble of the Constitution of Massachusetts, is a social compact by which the whole people covenants with each citizen, and each citizen with the whole people, that all shall be governed by certain laws from the common good. This does not confer power upon the whole people to control rights which are purely and exclusively private. Thrope versus R&B Railroad Code 27 VT period 143. But it does authorize the establishment of laws requiring each citizen to so conduct himself and so use his own property as not unnecessarily to injure another. This is the very essence of government. And 125 has found expression in the maximum sic uter tu it's all in Latin, eluni non litis. From this source comes the police powers, which, as was said by Mr. Chief Justice Taney in the license case 5 Hal 583, are nothing more or less than the powers of government inherent in every sovereignty. That is to say, the power to govern men and things. Under these powers, the government regulates the conduct of its citizens one towards another, and the manner in which each shall use his own property. When such regulations become necessary for the public good, in their exercise it has been customary in England from time to time immemorial, and in this country from its first colonization, to regulate ferries, common carriers, hackmen, bakers, millers, wharf fingers, innkeepers, and in so doing to fix a maximum of charge to be made for services rendered, accommodations furnished, and articles sold. To this day, statutes are to be found in many of the states upon some or all these subjects, and we think it has never yet been successfully contended that such legislation came within any of the constitutional prohibitions against interference with private property. With the Fifth Amendment in force, Congress in 1820 conferred power upon the city of Washington to regulate the rates of wharfage at private wharves. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. WHARVES, wharves. The sweeping of chimneys, and to fix the rates of fees thereof, and the weight and quality of bread, 3 Stat 587, Section 7, and in 1848 to make all necessary regulations respecting hackney carriages, and the rate of fare of the same, and the rates of hauling by cartmen, wagoners, carmen, and drymen, and the rates of commission of auctioneers. 9 ID 224, Section 2, Munn versus Illinois, 94 U.S. 113. This was established in 1876. Notice, based on the above, that the power of the government to control and regulate you requires that you first volunteer to become a statutory citizen, a United States citizen. Otherwise, you would be exclusively private and beyond their control. If you don't want to be controlled or regulated, then don't volunteer to become a citizen and instead become a non-resident, non-person protected only by the common law and the Constitution. Now, one of the other things this man mentioned, or this entity, whoever he be, mentioned, was the fact that, oh, you guys don't think that the laws apply to you and blah, 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 blah. Look, the common law is very fucking clear. Keep your hands and feet to yourself. Don't touch other people's shit. Don't take what fucking belongs to you, and there shall be no problem. Don't start no shit. Won't be no fucking shit. It's that simple. So it's not the fact that the people who continually study it and realize what's going on are claiming that they're above the law. It's quite the contrary. The law that we abide by, it supersedes the statutory fictional realm that man has to be governed by because he has no moral motherfucking compass and refuses to take accountability and responsibility for his action, and thus is graduated to have to be lorded over by the District of Criminals, where they provide statutes, codes, city ordinances, rules, and regulations because they're lawless. They're heathens. They don't understand. They don't comprehend how the shit works. So naturally, they're wards of the state. They're of unsound mind. They have no idea how to handle their affairs. So guess what? Poppy Uncle Sam comes in and says, I take care of you. I take care of you. You just do what you're told, when we tell you to do it, how we tell you to do it. You be all right. So if that's what you want for a system of fucking government, then don't read, don't apply yourself, keep bashing sovereignty because you don't comprehend it and understand it. Keep bashing trust law, keep denying the fact that unconsciously you entered into a contract by just merely being there without supplanting into the case who the fuck you are. I don't know how better to explain it. You have to do a special appearance. You have to fuck quo warrantos. There's all kinds of ways you can do it. Demurs, negative averments, all kinds of ways you can rip the jurisdiction from these people. But first and foremost, you might want to assert yourself and claim your fucking status, which means that I don't know what you guys are doing, trying to invoke me to become part of your statutory bullshit, but I have unalienable fucking rights. I am the American badass, and I will tell you where to stick your fucking ideology up your ass, okay? Because the one who carries the primary active degree of fault for all debts pertaining to United States persons and that which was created by the Congress and the legislator, talking about birth certificates and shit, is the office of the President of the motherfucking United States. And you can eat that shit. Take care of it. It's your obligation. Title 8 or Title 18, subsection 8. Public Law 7310. All right? Get after them over it. It's their obligation. I can't be the name. If you need me to be an authorized representative for this constructive trust you created, just know that my fee is $1.5 motherfucking million a minute. All right? And I don't, and I won't consent to being surety. And you will have to, of course, avail me for any mistakes I may or may not make in the course of administering your little fucking game piece on your game board. Why don't you just start setting the fucking law instead of being a volunteer? So frustrating. Hoy. Nah, blasted. I hit a fucking button, and now I've removed myself from it. Anyway, had to get that off because, fuck. People just don't get it. Oh, all this sovereign citizen shit, blah, 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 sovereignty, googly gawk. Boy, there ain't nothing more that burns my britches than people who I know are intelligent enough to read, because I follow some of these people that make these comments, and maybe they just haven't ascended of the mind yet. Maybe I should take it a little easier on them. But, the way that I always learned is if it was painful. So people around me always exhibited a lot of tough love around me, and ultimately was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Believe it or not, I have ministerial administrators that I actually fucking respect that sit on the bench wearing a fucking dress. I do. In hindsight, they have told me things that at the time, because I tend to have a temper, a little bit of a hot head on me, they have told me things, and in the heat of the moment, I become irrational, and once you become irrational, your brain stops fucking functioning, you're not critically thinking and processing information properly, and then I go back and I go, damn, that son bitch gave me the key. Fuck, he gave me the key to the kingdom of heaven. And here I was scolding him and chewing his ass, and I'm sure he was shaking his head going, fuck, here's can't get right again. I give the fucker a bone, and he throws it right back at me, tells me to shove it up my ass, and has no idea. But maybe there's a little hope for him. He might see it after the fact. For example, one of my recent cases, I was reached out by members of the court, and I was asked to provide jury instructions. Yeah, you tell dickhead to fuck off. I'm not doing shit. He already fucking knows. I don't have to fucking do a fucking thing. Boy, what a dumbass. What a fucking dumbass. Give them an opportunity and watch them piss it down their leg. Give them books and watch them tear the fucking pages. Do anything but read it. The guy extends a little bit of equity, and I tell him to fuck off. Instead of sitting down and thinking, why would he be proposing or requesting or asking? It wasn't an order. Hey, he'd sure like to see your jury instructions. Oh, fuck. Like I said, we can be our own worst enemies, or we can listen, observe, take recognition of our fellow brothers and sisters who have run the gauntlet, and take under advisement what they're sharing with us, because they learned at the school of fucking hard knocks. They've got the scars and the bruises and the burn marks to prove it. Many of them have lost years out of their life being subjected to a cage because freedom isn't free. They weren't quite grasping the concept of how it works, and they paid for it. So I hope this helps you out. For the child support issue, fucking quash it. Ask them to provide the true bill due and owing. Ask them who you owe. Tell them to produce the contract. It's not that hard. Write to the head of Child Support Enforcement Division in Washington, D.C., find out who the head is, and ask him, I believe you believe I owe you a debt. How much? I need you to verify it under the pains and penalties of perjury before a notary and send me your affidavit in support of a true bill due and owing that I owe you. Can't do it. Well, then I suggest in 31 days you strike this from the record. Okay? It's causing I a man harm. And if I don't know the head of the CPS, then I don't know anybody. You know how child support got started? It's really funny. Child support is a perceived alleged loan. It's an alleged loan. Well, let me ask you this. When did your offspring get a check cut to them? When did CPS, DHHS, Health and Human Services, under the executive branch, through the Social Security Administration, ever cut your ex-wife or your offspring a child? Your offspring a child. Your offspring a check. If they didn't do that, what the fuck do you owe them for? Oh. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.